Hi, and welcome back to this second hour of this Tuesday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. I'm Brian Fisher, your congenial, convivial, and amiable host. Program is Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on conservative talk radio. I talked with you yesterday, I think maybe on Friday, about this Wounded Warrior Project who rejected a donation from a church. Now, they're apologizing all over themselves, but their website clearly said, the original email to this church is, we will not accept donations from you because the product or message that's being used to raise the funds are religious in nature. Now, they've got a whole host of things. Here's how the website read originally. WWP, the Wounded Warrior Project, does not co-brand, create cause marketing campaigns, or receive a percentage or a portion of proceeds from companies in which the product or message is sexual, political, or religious in nature, or from alcohol or weapons companies. So specifically, and this is what the email said, we're not going to take money from you because it's religious in nature. You're a church, you're a school. We're not going to take a donation from you because it's religious in nature. Now, a half hour after Todd Starnes broke this story on Fox News, the Wounded Warrior Project went back and scrubbed the phrase religious in nature right off of their website. So they're trying to apologize all over themselves, but that is what it is. Now, on the religious liberty front, I've often pointed out that the most intolerant people on the face of the planet are secular fundamentalists. And in the name of tolerance, another Christian group has gotten kicked off of a campus, this at the University of Michigan, a Christian group that requires its leaders to be Christians has been tossed off of the University of Michigan campus. It's the Asian chapter of InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. And they require the students that are in leadership positions, you don't have to subscribe to this to come to their meetings, to be a part of it. If you're going to be in leadership, it's InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, criminally. What about that does the University of Michigan not understand? If you got the InterVarsity Atheist Fellowship, then you would expect their leadership to be composed of people that do not believe in God. I've got no problem with that. You've got no problem with that. If that's what the group is about, they ought to have the right to decide what the belief system is of their leaders. If you have the Muslim Student Association, I would expect everybody in leadership to be Muslims. This is just absurd, the way Christians are being singled out for bigotry, anti-religious, Christophobic bigotry that isn't targeted toward any other group on campus. So InterVarsity, and it's the Asian chapter. So they're not only religious bigots, they're racists because they're kicking this Asian chapter of the InterVarsity Christian Fellowship clean off campus. Now, I mentioned last hour, I've got issues with Matt Staver and our friends at Liberty Counsel on immigration, but Matt Staver's written a letter to national commissioners of the Boy Scouts of America talking about the risk that they're exposing individual scout troops to. And this is very, very important. I brought this up in our Action Alert meeting on Monday because this was a concern I had, the legal exposure of these individual scout troops. Because if the scouts change their policy tomorrow, which is what they're expected to do, then they would leave it up to the individual scout troops whether they would allow homosexuals as scout leaders. Remember, homosexuals sexually offend against children at 10 times the rate that heterosexuals do. So it's dangerous. It's contraindicated. Plus, you've got this whole business of role modeling. What kind of role models do you want for your young boys? That's not the role model that most families are going to want for their boys, regardless of whether there's any kind of sexual misconduct. That's not the kind of role models they want for the boys in scouting. Now, here's what Matt Staver, Liberty Counsel, says. Look, the Supreme Court's majority, everybody's saying, well, yeah, the Supreme Court said 2001 that they can set their own standards, or back in 2000, they can set their own standards. But this is what Matt Staver says. The Supreme Court's majority opinion rested in part on the premise that BSA as an organization has a right to define its own mission and its views regarding morality and the values BSA seeks to instill in boys and young men. Delegating that decision to local subsidiaries necessarily means that BSA no longer has a national organization-wide position on the morality of homosexuality. As such, those local affiliates would be beyond the limits of the Supreme Court's holding in Boy Scouts of America v. Dale, and each would be subject to new lawsuits under anti-discrimination laws and policies in whatever city and state each troop and pack is situated in. And Staver points out, look, there's no way that they're going to be able to incur the cost of litigation. You know, Nationals can say, it's up to you. We're not a part of this. Don't come looking to us for financial help. We said you had the freedom to set your own policies. You decided to set the policy of preserving heterosexuality as a moral standard. If that's going to cost you a lawsuit, then you got to find the resources. Don't look to us. We're not going to help you with that. That was your decision. You're going to have to bear the brunt of the lawsuit. Well, these individual scout troops, some of them have 15. I mean, like the average size of a scout troop in America is like 15. So there's no way in the world that they're going to be able to handle that, and you're going to have one church after another is going to pull its sponsorship. And if you look at what happened up in Canada, scouting is dead in Canada, and for one simple reason, that back in 1998, they decided to go all diversity on us. They were going to admit females, atheists, agnostics, gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transsexuals into troops, and that killed scouting in Canada. This is a piece by Hans Zeiger, was posted actually in 2004. Big Canadian real estate is on the market. A rather sizable chunk of Lord Robert Baden-Powell's empire, he's the guy that founded the Boy Scouts, is available for investors, home builders, fishing resort prospectors, or blacktop barons. Scouts Canada is pounding in for sale signs at the entrances of a number of scout camps across the country, including at least 20 camps in Ontario. But don't worry, no Boy Scouts will mourn the loss of their summer camps, for the Boy Scouts of Canada no longer exist. And that's so from 1998, in just 6 years, they had to start selling off camps and conference properties because they didn't have anybody in the scouting movement that was there to use them. Scouts Canada approved the establishment of the first all-sexual troop in 1999. The troop marches in homosexual pride parades and loudly symbolize what Scouts Canada calls its commitment to diversity. So consequently, in its attempt, the writer says, to include everybody and everything, Scouts Canada is effectively dead. Here's another paragraph. Budgets have run dry. Troop halls and old campsites sit vacant. Professional staff salaries are severed. Membership is mostly decimated. In the past, membership rolls consistently exceeded 300,000, should be rolled. Membership rolls exceeded 300,000. Around the peak in 1965, there were 320,000 Boy Scouts. Today, despite a one-third population increase in Canada over 4 decades, Scouts Canada has dwindled to a puny 130,000. That was in 2004. Today, 2013, their numbers are down to 74,000 from a high water mark of 320,000. And another problem they've got is they cannot get insurance. The cost for liability insurance against sexual molestation claims increased dramatically by 2002. So they can't get insurance. Nobody will underwrite them against sexual molestation claims. So they're completely exposed. One single pedophile could wipe out, annihilate Scouts Canada absolutely forever. Focal Point, AFR Talk, back in 2.